Hi everybody, Professor Chance here. Today we're going to be talking about something interesting, and guess what it is? Space travel. Not like this though. We're going to be talking about colonization of space launched right here from the good old planet Earth. I'm going to give you 3 reasons for and against space travel and space colonization. You're not going to want to miss it, so come on back. We'll be right here in a few seconds. All right, hi everybody, Professor Chance here. Today we're going to talk about space colonization. 3 reasons for and 3 reasons against. So I'll give you a chance to make up your own mind with a little bit of the facts, a little bit of the stories that I find out, a little bit of information I'll share with you. So let's get right into it. So what is colonization? And let's just talk about that for example, not so much space colonization, but in general. So in international law, a colony refers to a dependent territory or entity subject to the sovereignty of an independent country, but it's considered part of that country for the purposes of relations with third countries. I know that sounds really, technical, but all it means is that it's a place that a sovereign country has rights to, and it represents that country even wherever it is. Now, colonization has really gotten some, bad connotations as we look back over history now in the modern age. And, I think that has a lot to do with, European colonialization. But what we're talking about really is exploration. And will we take what is our world and take parts of that to another world? So, believe it or not, they've been talking about this for quite a while. The United Nations actually in 1967 put together this law, and this is the UN, the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space. Now, it's easier to actually say what that acronym means than actually say it what it spells, but that's another thing. Here's the ideas. First of all, space activities are for the benefit of all nations. Then there's no claim for sovereignty in space. Weapons of mass destruction are forbidden. Any astronaut in any nation is an envoy of mankind. The signatory states each are responsible for their own space activities, and that's whether they're with their government or private entities within their countries. And nations are responsible also for the damage caused by their space objects. And there are a lot of objects in orbit around our planet and even into the solar system, where whoever puts it out there is responsible. Now, the United Nations ratified this, and all the member nations are a part of this. And there's an actual annual report that was just put out in 2019, or for the 2019, that highlights a lot of the activities that go on at an international level for countries that are part of this agreement. Okay, so what are we talking about when we're talking about colonization? So there's the colonization of space, and you could think about that as, say, for instance, a space station, or maybe on an asteroid or something like that, where people are living and there's some sort of habitation of some sort in space. The International Space Station is a good example of that right now. Then there's a colonization of the moon, actually putting settlements and places where people might live or work on the moon. Colonization of asteroids, I mentioned that. That could be separate depending on the size of it. You could imagine that if there was a business case to mine asteroids, you might create a working condition there and people might actually live there, and coming to Earth might just be a vacation. Colonization of the planet. That's the one that most people think of when we're talking about colonization of space. All right, so who are the players and what are their goals? Now, there's a lot of organizations, agencies involved in space, either exploration or study of some sort. There's a lot of them, but I'm going to list some of the ones that are doing more towards colonization or habitation in space. And so then some of those might get left off. So, you know, if you think of others, you can certainly send me info about it. All right, NASA, obviously the big giant on the planet, pardon the pun. Now, what are they doing? They have a plan for Mars. Now, NASA's plan for Mars is not necessarily colonization, but it is study. And even as you know, there are several landers on Mars. There's orbiters at Mars now, transfer spacecraft that has been there. But the next step is to put astronauts on the surface. But that's not necessarily a priority for NASA. But what they do want to do, a step towards that, is to go to the moon. And that is the Artemis project. And this is, you know, humanity's journey to the moon, as they are returned to the moon as they bill it. And that is to go there and to set up permanent operational status on the moon as a jumping off place. And they, you know, strategically put Mars as a horizon over the moon, which is really ridiculous because it's not that close. But that's their goal, is to go to the moon first and then go to Mars. All right. And so the idea is to make the moon a proving ground. And as you see, the space station is part of the mission. But to make Mars, the moon a proving ground, and then develop a mission that goes to Mars. And this is NASA's path to Mars for human exploration. Now, they don't necessarily, again, say colonization. But these guys and ladies are talking about colonization, and that's SpaceX. SpaceX has really invested a great deal into the notion of colonizing Mars. That is their ultimate goal. Matter of fact, Mars is not even their ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is to make humanity multi-planetary. Now, I guess if you're on another planet like Mars, that makes you now multi because it's two, but they've got thoughts beyond that. And so the goal is to take it step by step by step. And they have embarked on this. And so quoting Elon Musk, who is the founder of SpaceX, among many other things, and then also I'll tell you who's actually the president of SpaceX, who's running everything as far as how they're doing these things. But this is what Elon Musk says. He says, you want to wake up in the morning and think the future is going to be great. And that's what being a spacefaring civilization is all about. It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past. And I can't think of anything more exciting than going out there and being amongst the stars. Now, this is a bold vision. As you can see, is actually a picture of, you know, habitats and civilization growing on Mars and ships going back and forth. And this is the concept, and it's even bigger than just setting up this intricate base on Mars. It's actually, there's a plan and a notion to terraform Mars into one that is more habitable. Right now, you probably know Mars' atmosphere is thin and unbreathable. There is radiation, ultraviolet radiation, and other radiation that is deadly to human beings there. And, and there's no protection even from a magnetic field for that. But the notion is that there is potentially ice which could be turned into water, which eventually you could build a atmosphere there, and one that is conducive to human life. That is the concept. Now, I'm not making any judgments on whether that is something that is feasible or not, but what I do know is that this is their goal. This is their goal. And so I've visited a couple of times. As a matter of fact, in a few days, I'll be going back out there again, speaking there, and involved in some of the work that they're doing. As you can see here, this is Elon Musk making a bold pitch about what they're going to do. Here I am at the last time I was there in Los Angeles. And this standing next to me, that is Gwen Shotwell, who is the president of SpaceX, and she guides all of everything that they do from an engineering and development standpoint. She's the one. So it's very, very interesting. I'm very interested in what they do and how well they will capture and meet their goals. All right, but that's not all. Blue Origin is another. I guess that, billionaires tend to say, hey, let me look at the stars and do something about it, and they start pouring their money in that direction, because this is a world-changing idea, is to reach out beyond our planet to space. And so they also have this notion of creating these ships that launch and return. Now, interestingly enough, SpaceX was the first one to do that and actually reuse a booster, which is a big game changer because the cost, and as you probably know in the past, like what NASA would done in their boosters, they drop off into the ocean and they never use them again. But these can be reused, and Blue Origin is doing the same thing here. And they're planning for a lander on the moon, as well as boosters to take payloads into space. So they work very well with NASA. As you can see, here's another picture of their reusable landing booster. And they're working with NASA to help achieve that moon jumping off point to everywhere else, let's say in the solar system, the moon as a base, where they're helping to do that. So that's an interesting way that they're going. Now, Virgin Galactic, that's another billionaire, Richard Branson, who has this vision of basically creating space tourism. And basically that is to take people up and, have a view of our Earth and maybe other places. I could envision, if there was some sort of station that was like a hotel and you could go up there and spend, a week or two in space and orbit, I could see that. Going back and forth is kind of a rich person's game, and so that's their model. We have to see how successful they are with it, but they're pouring resources and developing knowledge and technology towards the exploration and even the habitation of space, and that's important. Now, here's one of their ships, and so it's a different thing. It's not a rocket, but they're basically using high altitude to get you there, and then a way to dock with something else. But it's essentially to take you way up into the atmosphere and so that you could get a beautiful view of Earth. All right. Now, the Chinese space program is another one that is serious. And then the reason I bring it up is because, well, first of all, I don't know what it is about these programs, but they tend to always copy Star Trek for some reason. Here is just a blatant ripoff. That's their logo, and there's the Star Trek Federation of Planets logo. So you be the judge. But what they're one of three nations, which is United States, Russia, and of course China, that has transported humans into space. Okay, and they are not an International Space Station partner yet. But as some are seeing, as they're developing their technology, they're developing it in such a way that their ships could dock with the space station. So it looks like they're trying to lean towards that, but they haven't got there yet. They have had a moon lander and rover on the moon since 2013. And so that's quite interesting. All right. Here's some others worth noting, and again, here's that swoosh that is Star Trek-esque. Seems like everybody kind of wants to grab that idea. There's another one for the Japanese space agency. The Europeans, Canadian Space Agency. There's also an agency with the United Arab Emirates. So a lot of nations, there's a lot of, and also the European Space Agency is a collection of many European countries. So many countries have, pointed their eyes towards space, but the big three right now, because the Russians have kind of pulled back, the big three right now are the United States, China, and of course, Soviet Union, or Russia, I should say, but they haven't done a lot lately. All right, so let's talk about some reasons for. Here's the first reason I want to state for colonization of space and planets. Our population growth on Earth. In a prior talk, I think I showed this chart. This is the population growth between 1700 up to 2100. And here we are now sitting around 7.7 billion people on planet Earth, and it will continue to go forward. So by 2100, we're expecting 10.9 billion people on the planet. Okay, so here we are with the world population, and as you can see, the carbon dioxide levels are going up along with the population exponentially, and it's not a surprise given what we do and how we use it, but it's changing our environment, it's changing our climate and our atmosphere, and there's a significant impact to that. But also notice the use of fresh water has gone up exponentially as well, along with fertilizer consumption, which is used in the preparation of food, marine fish capture. Overfishing is a big problem. For food production to meet the needs of these billions of people, as well as the loss of tropical forests has gone up in the same manner, all taking these exponential paths of growth, and that is a significant impact to our world. So we are currently using up the renewable resources of 1.7 Earths right now. And if we don't change, we're going to need 3 Earths just to provide for ourselves by 2050. So the population and the resources that are required to meet the needs are not keeping up with the population. So that's a reason why we need to look elsewhere, perhaps even while we try to address the issues here on Earth. Okay, but that leads us to the first reason against it. And it's related to the reason for, and that is we need to fix the planet that we live on, and it will take a certain amount of resources to do so. Because we need to fix our agricultural system, we need to stop overfishing, and we need to ramp up clean energy production. And those take resources and focus and will and political will as well to do this. And, you know, the question is, can we walk and chew gum at the same time? Well, so far, I'm doubtful about that just because of how we deal with things currently in our world. So here's another reason for the generation of new knowledge. So some of the fundamental benefits of space exploration to our world has been, number one, people are inspired, scientific knowledge is generated, national technical competence is improved. That's another thing. Productivity and capacity of working in space is enhanced. Markets for space products and services are created, as you can see from the companies I just mentioned, that now has seen a business case for space and are operating upon it. Some of the indirect benefits are economic prosperity, health, where there's been improvements to health care. The human experience is expanded. And understanding of humankind's place in the universe is enhanced, at least. Here's a good chart that shows, and you can see this date. This is right around in the 1970s, when the number of PhDs earned in these areas spiked. And you can see this is mathematical science PhDs, here's engineering PhDs, and here's physical sciences PhDs that spiked up around this time as we were looking at the space exploration, and this was right around the time of Apollo 17, where you see the dotted line, which was the last person on the moon. But as you can imagine, those people got their PhDs, went to their undergraduate school and took all the math and science and all that back here. So they were inspired by the work that Kennedy initiated back in 1961. So you can see that there's a direct influence, and that leads to nothing but good things for our society. All right, now, here's a reason against. It's hard. It's really hard. Now, that's not a reason not to do it. It's just a reason to say, you know, give you some pause, give you some thought. But it's dangerous. Since we started, 19 astronauts or cosmonauts have lost their lives during space flight. 11 died during, an additional 11 died during training or ground missions. And some of the accidents were with Apollo 1, Challenger, and Columbia, the space shuttles, as you might remember. But this is how many astronauts have lost their lives. Now, you know, some may argue it's not a large number given what has been accomplished, but it is dangerous. The cost. So NASA's current budget sits around $22 billion. And since 1960, approximately $600 billion has been spent. Now, if you adjust this for inflation, it would be 1.2 trillion. And at the peak is around 4.5% of the U.S.'s national budget. And right around now, it's somewhere around a little bit over 1% of our budget. So, you know, it's costly, but again, is it worth it? You have to answer that question. Making anywhere outside of Earth consistently habitable for humans is very difficult. We got to take everything with us. We got to take our air. We got to take the pressure. We got to take any chemistry we need with us. But here's a counterpoint to that. 2/3 of our planet is water, and we can't live very long inside the water, again, without taking our environment with us. So, the question, are we made for land? Are we made for the water? Well, more of our planet is water, at least on the surface or near the surface. So anyway, interesting concepts, but another issue is that it will take cooperation by countries around the world to do this and do it right. Now, if we think, the United States is going to lead everything, we're going to do everything, and our companies and NASA, well, yeah, but, if you're going to have a truly global habitat somewhere else that represents the Earth, you need more countries to cooperate. And again, in the climate that we live in today, it might be difficult. So these are on the yes side, and this is Stephen Hawking, and this is Elon Musk, and this is Neil Tyson, and this is, of course, Bill Nye, the science guy. And they're on the no side. The science guy has gone as far as saying that this is ridiculous. And, I think he's quoted saying, what are you smoking? If you think you're going to terraform Mars and create a habitat there. But Neil deGrasse Tyson, he is also someone who thinks that more resources should be focused on making the Earth better before we go trying to make another planet and take all of our problems and bad habits along with us. Something to think about. All right, here's a reason 4. The cool factor. Well, yeah, it's cool. Look at this, to be floating up above the Earth and working out in space, or to be on a lunar base building and working and doing something new on another planet. Really cool, really interesting. And it also is the height of human achievement. And so I think that, yes, this is a real palatable reason for it, just because of what it means and what it inspires and what it opens the wonder and the imagination, the vision of our young people as well, and who knows what they can come up with, right? I mentioned before, suppose there was a space station out here such that that's where you lived and worked, and you just visited Earth for vacation, but this was your home. It's possible. All of that's possible because when we start thinking about things and how to do things, the possibilities come together. All right. This is a mock-up of a ship that NASA has put together, or at least is thinking about. And this is one that is capable of interstellar travel using Alcubierre warp drive equations. It's not realizable yet. It's not realistic yet. But it is something that is being thought about. All right. Against. And this is an interesting point of view, but also an important one. And that is the inequity in the implementation. Are we engaging everyone who represents this planet in the development and the implementation of living in space? If we're bringing planet Earth to another planet, are we bringing everyone along? Are we doing what is necessary to make sure that the ideals and the cultures of all of the representatives of this planet are taken to the next. And even in its conception and its innovation, are we bringing the thoughts and the ideas of different types of people together in order to do it? Well, that's an open question, because a lot of the work is being done right now. And so, as you can see, I mean, these are some of our modern astronauts. And while, and these are all for NASA or Earth related, United States related. But as you can see, who's represented here? Now, the opportunities are there for everybody, and we need to encourage everybody. And it is up to all different types and walks of life of people to get engaged and get involved. That goes back to this inspiration that I've talked about a little while ago. It's important that that happens, but we've got to keep the doors open for everyone also. And that's how we can make it happen, and so it can be a representation of planet Earth as it really and truly exists. So, that's something we need to think about. Even as we reach for the stars, let's reach out for each other so that we can bring everybody along. This is a list of some of the sources that I utilize. As always, I will make these available in the comments section in the video. So, you'll get to click and see where I got everything from. But I want you to think about the future, what kind of world we want to have, and what kind of future we want to build together. That's what is important out of all of this. And we have an opportunity to choose. And it is my hope that we choose wisely. Keep on thinking. Hi everybody, this is Chance Glenn. Thank you for watching the show. I hope I've given you something to think about. I want you to continue to support us and follow us. First of all, you probably see this show on YouTube, so be ready to follow it and keep up with every post that we make. We're also up on Facebook under Something to Think About. Our webpage is under the Morning Bird Foundation at morningbirdfoundation.org, and you should be able to find the show there. Also, you can email us, you can post on Facebook, got a Twitter account as well. So you can communicate with us. I'll be periodically answering questions from you, so look out for that. But continue to just help us out. You can like and subscribe. That goes a long way to doing that. But most of all, we want you to keep thinking. We want you to give you something to think about. Take care.